There's two things on my YouTube channel that people seem to love. It's the 60 FPS videos and junk computers. I honestly didn't think I would be making a video like this again, because with very few exceptions, there just aren't any of these left at work. I've taken all the ones that I've taken and scrapped all the rest of the ones that I haven't. But here's another one that belonged to the department that I worked for at one point, and I guess was given to somebody else, and then I found it sitting in the hallway, left for dead. Looks like it was in a construction zone at one point. You can see there's dirt all over it. Okay, close the door now, because that way you won't have to listen to nothing but the neighbor's stupid dog. Anyway, you can see it says MSI on it. It's definitely really old. Socket 478. One interesting thing about this that I actually didn't even notice until now, there's no baffle in the side panel. I don't think I've seen one of those in ages. That just had no baffle here, not even place for one. There's the good old booby trap device, or at least whatever's left of it. I don't think the rest of it's still in here. Nope, it's been taken out. There were a number of these systems around, hundreds of them, and almost all of them had a different motherboard in them. I remember there were at least 2 or 3 different Intel boards, one of which was micro ATX. Some of them you've probably seen on this channel before. There were, I think, at least 2 different Asus boards, one of which again was micro ATX. I've seen some of them, the P5LD2-VM. And then 2 different MSI boards, one of which I've also got in storage. It's a little bit fancier than this. And then there's this one, which looks like it's got 3 DDR slots, 2 of which are populated. Kind of interesting. It's got a Ethernet and video, because it doesn't have either of those things on board. Kind of surprised that this doesn't have onboard LAN, but I guess that was an option. And again, this is probably one of the even older ones. It might have a date on it somewhere. There's the support information. But I would have, 2002. So, well, that might be a refurbishment date. I don't know, but Socket 478 would certainly put it into 2002 territory. I have no idea if it works. I've never plugged it in, as I mentioned. I'm surprised to see a hard drive in it. Looks like a Western Digital, so good quality drive. Looks like everything's hooked up. Everything looks like it's good. It's a little dirty. There's the little USB header down there. Looks like you get, what is that, 6 PCI slots and an AGP. I don't think that's a universal AGP slot. But it doesn't really matter. It's not AGP Pro or anything like that either. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug it in, and we're going to see what happens. Maybe I'll even fold 2 videos into one. We might even install an operating system on it. Of course, I'm going to clear all that nonsense up first. Okay, quick notes before I go ahead and flick the power on here. If you take a look at this board, you'll notice that there are no bloated capacitors on it. At least not insofar as I can tell. And that's got to be something of a miracle in this day and age. So, I can't see into this giant glut of wiring that's right here, so I don't know if maybe there's one in there. This hard drive is what? What does that say on it? Does that say 80? That's an 80 gig hard drive. Wow. So I was going to tell you that it was a 40 and that I was going to put an 80 in here, but I guess I don't have to. It's already got an 80 in it. So that's a nice little bonus. I think this front panel thingamajig is hooked up wrong. or at least it's partially unplugged. I think that this connector here, this ground, is supposed to go here. I'm going to make an assumption anyway, that that's where it's supposed to go. It's a ground. It's actually hooked up to this little front panel thing. I have another one of these sitting around here somewhere. Actually, it's right here that I pulled out of another case. I hate these things because you can see they've got the individual pins, and that does absolutely nothing but drive me insane. So, anyway. But I guess it's there. This arrangement of these IDE connectors is a little strange. I haven't seen a board do that in a long time, at least not one that would have had what this has. There's no onboard beeper, it would have gone right there, but this does actually have a PC speaker in it, the case anyway, so that's not a big deal. So, battery is probably stone dead, if I had to guess. And of course, there's no guarantee that the computer works at all. If it doesn't, I'll probably just put another motherboard in here. I've certainly got motherboards that I can put in here. Something that would be, maybe even something that's a little bit better than what this is. But I can't go too big, because obviously this case doesn't have the same kind of ventilation that some of the later ones did, with the vent on the front, or the vent on the side. It's an 80mm fan, I believe, in the back. Not bad. And I think you could put an 80 right there as well if you wanted to, and who knows, depending upon what I do with this, I may well just do that. I'm assuming everything's hooked up and ready to go. So let's see if it explodes in my face, or does something cool. Okay, nothing so far. I just heard a beep. That's a video card error. So, it's not totally dead, but we will need to do some work. Let me try reseating that video card. Okay, here's the video card. I have no idea what this actually is. It says A5PT version 1.0. And there's a not particularly helpful serial number on the back. So, I'll probably look that up and put in a video title or something, but I cleaned up the contacts on that a little bit. They were a little bit dirty. So we'll see if reseating it's enough to get the system to work. Fresh power-up attempt. Let's see what happens this time. Still not happy about it. So, I don't know if it's the card or if it's the RAM. I might check the RAM too while I'm at it. I do have some AGP video cards out here, but I don't know if they work either. Okay, good news. It's on. Bad news is I might have messed up those memory slots by screwing around with it the way that I did. Worst news yet, although certainly not undoable, is that this has a BIOS password on it. I don't think I know what it is. Okay, pulled the battery out, and now we're into setup. That floppy drive, I'm telling you, that did not sound very good. So, let's see here. I don't think it's got anything in it, right? No, that's empty. Okay. So it's gone back to the year 2003. And I don't know about you, but definitely not May. That's for sure. So let me go ahead and I'll reset this up the way that it should be set up. And then I'll come back. And I guess we will have to load an operating system because the grub bootloader didn't load. Okay, looking at the health status here, looks like everything looks normal. 3.3, 12. I'm surprised to see that this has both a -12 and a -5. But I suppose that would make sense for an early ATX system. I'll also note that it reads the battery as being 3.264 volts when there's no battery installed at all. It's kind of odd. But it is what it is. Frequency voltage control. I guess it's locked, so we can't do anything with that. We could manual FSB on that if we really wanted to, but I'm not going to do any overclocking on this, at least not yet. I don't even know what's actually in there in terms of a CPU. So we'll save an exit on that. Yeah, that floppy drive didn't sound very good. And you can see here, A drive error. So the floppy drive is bad, so we'll have to replace that. So let's see, what do we actually have on here? Unrecognized command. Seriously? What can we do with this? I don't know. Looks like a whole lot of nothing on that floppy drive, given that it doesn't work. I can't boot my bootloader and see if I can do it that way. So, guess I'm going to have to find something to run on this. I don't know what that's going to be with only 1 gigabyte of memory installed. Because I could add more, but I don't really want to mess with it. And I think the maximum this will take is 3 gigs, which is below the 4 gig that a lot of systems want these days anyway. Okay, so here's the symptom that we've got going on here. We got a hard drive that's obviously got nothing useful on it. We have a floppy drive that doesn't work. And this that obviously appears to have had a melted belt. So I have to do some drive replacements. Unfortunately, the only floppy and optical drives that I've really got are ones with black faceplates, so it's going to look a little stupid, but I don't really care about cosmetics on this particular build because it's not something that's really special anyway. So, plus it'll make it stand out, so I know what it is a little bit better. Okay, there it is. It's going to look kind of dumb with that front panel thing right there, but not much I can do. And again, another thing that I noticed about this case that I actually did not notice until now, but it makes sense because there's a fan grill there. There's no front panel headers on this case. Interesting. I don't think I've seen one of those without the front panel headers in a long time either. So, I'll put that back on. We'll power it up. And hopefully that floppy drive works. And so does the optical drive. Okay. Let's see if it still works. Of course not. Okay, well, it required some percussive maintenance, but it's working again. Stopped displaying the logo for some reason. I don't know why. I want to boot to the CD. See if that actually will work. I hear it doing something. Yeah, it's trying. Alright, cool. We're in a graphical install here. See if this will actually even work. Alright. I have no mouse. Well, that's highly productive. Mouse is working, so I don't understand why that's broken. Keyboard's fine. So yeah, that makes absolutely zero sense. Good. So I guess I'm doing it with the keyboard only. Okay, so we've run into problems. I don't know if there's something wrong with that hard drive. Kind of inclined to believe that there is, because it could not create a partition for the root. which I think is a load of nonsense. So, the computer is about to get what it deserves. By the way, for those wondering what this is, this MSI motherboard, this is a 645E Max-U, which bases itself on an SIS 645 chipset. Blech. Although in fairness to SIS, there was a time when their chipsets weren't that bad. But a lot of the Pentium 4 offerings were, quite frankly, just garbage. And I'm hoping that this is not one of them. But it might be. So I don't know, it might end up being that this thing just gets a Windows XP install, and that might just be the end of that, because I don't know how much I want to mess with this. Well, that's nice of it. Huh. Wow. Once again, Linux, proving to the world that it is not ready for prime time. Well, that's gotten a little bit further along than the last one did, but oh, wow. So the graphical installer couldn't do it, but the text one did. Whatever you say. Now, that's no guarantee that this is going to actually work, because there might be something wrong with that disk. The fact that it's sitting at 1% right now kind of suggests that there must be. Okay, continue. Take the disk out of the drive. And we'll see how long this takes. Put the covers back on. So now it should have proper airflow. Not that it really matters, it's fairly cold out here. Not as cold as it should be. It was something ridiculous, like 9 degrees yesterday, but today it was a little bit chillier. I thought something was rattling on the computer. There we go. That's more like what it sounds like, and the LEDs are working nicely. They're pretty dim, but I think most of these are pretty dim at this point. So, we'll let this thing go through it, and then I'm sure it'll reboot on its own, and probably throw the monitor into a mode it can display, and irritate the ever-loving crap out of me in doing so. This is the point in the video where I talk to you about how much of a complete and utter farce Linux on the desktop is. This monitor, a Philips 190B, is a 1280 by 1024 monitor. And yet this thing here is sitting with this message. This is actually at the grub boot menu, but it doesn't really matter because it doesn't get past this anyway. It just sits like this forever. EDID, what is it called? Enhanced Display Identification Data or something, came out in 1994. That was 30 years ago. And this doesn't work. What year is it again? Some people, I think, need to get themselves a calendar and figure out what's going on here. This hardware is from 2002. That is just over 20 years ago. And might I remind you that it doesn't work. As you can see here, it's been 20 years. This distribution is intended to be used on old hardware. And it doesn't work. Why does it exist then? You know, I can commend somebody for coming up with a solution that nobody has come up with before. For coming out with something new. For trying to push the boundaries. But if it doesn't work, what's the point? At a previous job, and again, we're looking at about 10 years ago, I used to run into this problem all the time. On Sun Unix workstations. Sun Microsystems. Who is Sun Microsystems? Exactly. This is unacceptable. Out of a desktop Linux operating system in the year 2023, soon to be 2024. And I do not care what moronic excuse somebody in the comments is going to make for the Linux developers. Do not care. It is a boot menu. It is a bunch of text. No excuse for it to not be able to display here. And again, I'll kindly point out that EDID came out 30 years ago. The information that you need to pick the correct video resolution has been presented to you for the past 30 years. So we're going to do what I should have done in the first place. Come over here. I'm going to insert this disc we're going to hit the stupid reset button for like the 20 billionth time. Watch this not work. I will laugh. This is what we're going to do. An approaching 25-year-old operating system is about to put Linux to shame. And it really should not happen that way. But that's how this works. Because this works in a desktop environment. Linux, time and time again, has proven that it does not. I am neither stupid nor lazy. Okay, that might not be totally true. I am quite lazy. But I'm certainly not stupid. Again, I've been doing this for, let's see, I'm 27 years old. Probably a good 20 years. So I've been at this for that long. I know how to troubleshoot a computer. I know how to recover from these kinds of issues. But there comes a point in time where you just kind of want something to work. I have been working on this computer since probably about 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's now almost 8. That is 6 hours of time that I have wasted on this. And for what? We haven't gotten anywhere with it. Well, that might also not be totally true. I did replace the CD-ROM and the floppy drive, and those are working. I think. I don't actually know about the floppy drive. But the CD-ROM is working. So, okay, we've gotten somewhere, but we haven't gotten very far. And like I said, there comes a time where I know that I am about to pull every last strand of my hair out. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want to pull every last strand of my hair out. I actually enjoy having hair. So, you know, it keeps me warm in the winter and whatever. So we won't do that. We're going to go through Windows 2000 setup. And this thing will run Windows 2000. And that'll be the end of that. Oh, and because I know that some dumbass is going to go into the comments like, oh, well, Linux works for me. I use it on a day-to-day basis. Good for you. Good for you. Does it look like I care? I have demonstrably proved that it doesn't work, and yet you're going to post in my comment section about that. Do the world a favor and just go... See that thing there at the back? Actually corresponds to postcodes. I imagine that it probably came with a sheet of paper that explained what each of those things does. Or what each of those things means. It's kind of neat. Yep, we're gonna have to find some drivers. We have a basic install here. I don't actually know what video card this is, so that could make this a little interesting. Pentium 4, 2 gigahertz with 1 gig of RAM. Yeah, video controller not found. I does see the 3-com Ethernet. I didn't even think to check and see what that actually was before. It just goes to show you how important Ethernet cards are. Sound's not detected. Not totally, anyway. ACPI uniprocessor PC. I'm pretty sure that this does not support hyperthreading. If it did, I didn't see the option in the BIOS. And I'm not even sure... Oh no, USB is there, so I would see it. Okay, took a little bit of effort, because I had to actually install them manually, but I now have all the drivers installed. Well, actually, the audio driver was pretty easy. And that's just a Realtek AC97 chipset. The video is what I had to install manually. Apparently, it's this thing called a ATI Expert 2000. Never heard of that in my life, but that's what it is. You can see that's what it's running. Looks like it's running just fine. So. Looks pretty good. Video's in good health. Everything is working the way that it's supposed to. Comes with 3D pinball, like it should. There's no sound though, so... And I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me play this. But it's there. So if I wanted to, I could. I think that's pretty much it for this, really. Compared to all the screwing around at what I had to do to get Linux to work, I think it turned out quite nicely with Windows 2000. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them below.